a kind of open letter to my successor. In this letter, I will tell the new secretary that you will confront everything I've discussed today: the evolving threat of terrorism, devastating natural disasters, and the need for strong border security and immigration enforcement. You'll need to forge strong relationships with all of our partners, including Congress, to make sure DHS has the resources it needs to meet our responsibilities to the American people. And you will face new challenges that we have begun to address, but that need further attention. Our country will, for example, at some point, face a major cyber event that will have a serious effect on our lives, our economy, and the everyday functioning of our society. More must be done, and must be done quickly. You will also have to prepare for the increasing likelihood of more weather-related events of a more severe nature as a result of climate change, and continue to build the capacity to respond to potential disasters in far-flung regions of the country that could occur at the same time. And you must continue to integrate the department, what I've referred to as DHS 3.0, and lead it into its next stage of development and operations, and that when disaster strikes, people who have lost everything are given food and shelter and hope.
Masters with us. We're going to talk more about Planet X and, of course, take your phone calls right here on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back. It's Marshall Masters. Well, it does a lot of things to the planet. I don't think it's going to hit it, Marshall, but it's going to do some weird stuff, right?
Absolutely, George. You nailed it. It's not going to hit us. Anybody who tells you this thing's going to hit us is feeding you the malarkey. That's not to say we're not going to have impacts. The first thing I show in my video is the increase in the number of meteor sightings is just going exponentially off the chart. Something is throwing rocks at us, and so we're going to have the impact events. Look at the Chelyabinsk meteor that hit Russia, the biggest thing to hit Russia, or the entire world, if you will, in over a century, and it completely blindsided NASA, and they said the reason why is it came out of the sun, and they don't have anything pointed in that direction.
Mind you, as the date gets closer, so you can stock up on snacks and beverages, but a comet is coming, a big and brilliant comet arriving in November 2013. It could potentially be 15 times brighter than the moon and visible in broad daylight over the U.S.
Is that what we're looking at here, guys? Something's just not right. I would say this was some kind of marker or something if it was not for this cloud. Pull it up. Let's look at it close. This is the real image of what's inside that cloud. I don't know what the cover-up is, but there's something going on. Don't know why they're doing it so different than they have the other comets.
Due to resource constraints caused by sequestration, Air Force Space Command officials have directed the 21st Space Wing to prepare to discontinue operations at the Air Force Space Surveillance System by October 1st. By discontinuing operations, the space surveillance system would not be maintained in operational status.
New York Times. Their headline read, "As worries over the power grid rise, a drill will simulate a knockout blow." The drill is called Grid X2. It's an EMP simulation. The exercise is an entire North American-wide exercise. Interestingly enough, the final planning phase is October 1.
The one last point is that we are now aware of a very large object that is coming into the solar system. My personal study deals with what I call extra solar system objects. Some are big, some are small, but there's no question that there are hundreds, possibly thousands of these objects which come into our solar system periodically and then go out in a long orbit. This is the other thing, is that comets have the ability to affect the energy output of the sun. When that happens, we then get severe weather on Earth. So there's many aspects to the effects that these large comets can have on the solar system and on planet Earth. But the bottom line is comets are not dirty snowballs. Let's go back to this. Okay, right here, the first comet coming in misses that flare. The second comet comes in and directly hits it, and this is the result. NASA says coincidence. That big flare, the biggest flare we've ever seen in the solar. So now what I want to show you are the comets coming in from the south, and if you've seen my homepage, I've got dozens and dozens of these. I picked a couple just to show you, and look down in this region where I've got the mouse arrow coming up. There it comes, you see it? Boom, the sun explodes.
We are only one act of madness away from a social cataclysm, unlike anything our country has ever known.
EMP is one of a small number of threats that could hold at risk the continued existence of U.S. civil society.
You want to think of that as a hurricane in space.
Just one violent active region on the sun can cause essentially continent-wide, perhaps even planetary scale impacts to our critical infrastructure.
So I'm driving home today, and all of a sudden I get behind some oversized load trucks carrying some Bradleys up north. And now there's a lot of talk about October 1st about taking all these orders. The military's taking all these orders about MREs and bulk food and all this stuff. And so what's really going on, man? You know, I mean, are we getting ready for martial law? I mean, you got the orders for the MREs, for all sorts of the MRAPs, ammunition, magazines, guns. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, what are we getting prepared for? You know? I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'm not paranoid, but I'm just straight up wanting to know somebody to come forward and just be honest about what really is going on. I mean, that's all I'm asking, is just for some transparency. And so here you go. Are these going to, you know, just being transferred for the military from one base to another? Are these being transferred to go to the next World War III that's going to take place in Syria? Or are these being transferred to help patrol the U.S. streets and eradicate any population that would get in the way? You be the judge.
With the National Defense Authorization Act coming into effect this Thursday, the law that many fear spells the end of American democracy grants the government and the military unprecedented powers to detain U.S. citizens indefinitely.
We are now in a state of martial law and war globally. NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, that Obama has called for and signed, stipulates that even American citizens can now be targeted by the military, picked up and imprisoned indefinitely without civilian trial, thus throwing out our due process, our habeas corpus clauses. So we are now in the state of martial law. Everything is now creating conditions for a total war state. I mean, McCain called for the whole America becoming part of the so-called battlefield. America is now a battlefield. The whole earth is a battlefield. What we're trying to do then is create a martial law state.